All right, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night, whatever time you're tuning into this video, just make sure that it is good. My name is Game Boy Rob, and today we're gonna have to do a little bit of a 2-for-1 today because I missed a day. I was not able to make a video yesterday about the Malphite reveal because, wouldn't you know it, I have moved. I have moved. I have changed locations. I have changed living arrangements. I now live in a different place than I lived before. Amazing. I know, incredible. What a wonderful, unique, interesting concept. But yeah, I have spent the entire day yesterday and today packing, unpacking, moving things from one place to another. And yeah, and now I'm here. I'm, as you can see, still not done with that unpacking. I will be going forward. I will still be streaming at the same times I've always been streaming. I will still be trying to produce YouTube content at the same rate, hopefully at a higher rate than before. I'm trying to get up toward I can like make a video daily, but still not there yet. Working for it. Still not there yet. But yeah, because of that, I did miss a YouTube an upload, right? A reveal. I have seen these reveals. I have seen Malphite, and I have seen today's reveals as well. So these are not going to be my first impressions. These are not going to be like my initial reactions to seeing the cards. They're going to be my current impressions, my current understanding and thought on these cards. So without further ado, in case you've been living under a rock or under a Malphite, please don't unsubscribe. Let us begin. Let us take a look at these cards. So Malphite, the big man, the big rock himself, was revealed yesterday. Let's take a look at him. He is a 7 mana, 6/10 with tough in Targon. That is a lot of stats. That is a big boy. These are almost Nautilus levels of size. 7 mana, 6/10 with tough essentially means this will never die to damage, right? Unless you're actually going up against deep and your opponent actually drops Nautilus, you can kind of just freely attack with this forever. And it shouldn't be trading down almost ever, right? On round 7. It should only be trading up and or dealing damage, right? So that's not bad. He does level up. His level up condition is you've summoned 12 plus mana of landmarks, and that's a bit of a sticking point. That's a bit of a toughie. Malphite is not easy to level up unless you build your whole deck around landmarks, which is yeah, a little rough, and I'll talk about that more later. But if you can do that, if you can summon 12 plus mana of landmarks, then Malphite levels up into this, a 7 mana 7/11 with tough. And he says, when I'm summoned or level up or round start, if you have the attack token, create an unstoppable force in hand. And that's this. Unstoppable force is a 2 mana slow speed stun all enemies. Not all enemies with 4 or less power, all enemies, right? That is very powerful. You can see that is quite powerful. If you have even a decent board, you would be dealing damage every single time you get the attack token. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Now let's keep going. We also see his champion spell, which is Ground Slam, which is 4 mana fast speed, stun a unit, deal 3 to it if you have summoned a landmark this game. And then obviously create a Malphite in your deck. So this card is interesting. Personally, I don't quite see it. I don't quite see it being a great card in a vacuum. I don't quite see it being like awesome as a card. Anything that both stuns and deals damage at the same time kind of seems a bit redundant, right? Because either you're stunning the unit or you're killing it, right? If you use this on a unit with 3 less health, which you kind of want to most of the time, the unit dies and then the stun's not relevant, right? And you kind of wish you just paid, for a 3 mana deal 3. Or you're just paying 4 mana to stun a unit and not kill it, which also feels a little meh. That being said, a 4 mana deal 3 alone would not be a bad card, right? And this is in Targon, and Targon doesn't have any sort of like removal. right? Targon has no fast speed removal. In fact, this is the second card in Targon that is actually fast speed. So this is a decent card, right? And obviously it's kind of limited to being in landmark decks, or at least any deck that can consistently summon a landmark, which is not that hard. This will probably see a bit of play. 4 mana deal 3 alone would be good in Targon, so this is just better than that. So this is a pretty decent card. This is a pretty alright card. So that's pretty good. And then the last card we've got here is Stonebreaker, which is a 6 mana 6/4, also from Targon, and it's got a play skill. If you've summoned 4+ landmarks this game, deal 4 to an enemy and 2 to the enemy nexus. This card is tricky for me to evaluate. This is one of the cards that is most difficult for me to assign a value to. We can compare this to a Bakai Rampager, which, in case you are unfamiliar, is a 5 mana 4/6 that says, you know, play an enemy and I strike each other. That card has Overwhelm and this has nothing, and this costs 1 more mana for a similar stat line, and the difference is that the enemy doesn't strike back. This always deals 4, and you also get a bit of chip damage on the nexus. This one's really tough for me. I think it might end up being meta dependent, but I think more than that, landmark decks probably won't quite be able to fit this in. Summoning 4+ landmarks probably won't be the most difficult thing in the world for a dedicated landmark deck, which is obviously where this is trying to find a home. I'm just not so sure if that's good enough. I don't know why. I don't know why this is, but followers in this game that come with removal, that come attached to removal, never seem to do that well. The Bakai Rampager is an example of this, right? Bakai Rampager is a card that does not see very much play, even in Slay decks, right? The best deck in the game right now, Nasus Thresh, is a Slay deck, and they don't run Bakai Rampager, and there's no deck in the meta right now that does run Bakai Rampager. And this is similar to that, so it's interesting whether or not this could see play. I can see a world in which this is actually pretty good, and I can see a world in which nobody will ever run this card. It's mediocre to good. I would say this card is somewhere between mediocre and good. It might see play in certain landmark decks, probably not as like more than a 2 of, like, well, 1 of or a 2 of, right? Dealing 4 to kill a champion is always a good thing. The 2 nexus damage is almost irrelevant. It's just going to be whether or not a 6 mana 6/4 that kills a unit is a good enough card to put in your deck. And in certain metas it might be, and in certain metas it might not be. Honestly, this one's a wait and see for me. This one's a wait and see for me, but I don't think this is gonna like make anything. You know, this isn't gonna change the game. Stonebreaker is not gonna break open the metagame, you know what I mean? Okay, so now that we've got all those out of the way, Malphite, right? This guy has a bit of a problem. He's got a bit of an issue, and that's this right here. You've summoned, now note, this is summoned and not play. You've summoned 12+ mana of landmarks. That's a lot. that is a lot of mana of landmarks. You are going to have to run a dedicated landmark deck in order to level this guy up, and that's a bit rough, because as we saw yesterday, all the landmarks in Targon are either not worth very much mana or not that impressive, right? Not that great. Blue Sentinel, great card, excellent. We will be running this. We will be running this in Malphite deck, probably a 3 of, right? We will be running that in Malphite decks because it summons this Crest of Insight, right? That's good, but it's only worth 2 mana. So if you play a Blue Sentinel, that's 2, right? You're 2 out of 12 on Malphite. And then maybe you play a Rockfall Path, great, that's a good card. Now you're 4 out of 12 on Malphite, but after that, it's round 4 and you're only 4 out of 12 on Malphite. Are we playing Spiral Stairs? I'd prefer not to. I'd rather not play Spiral Stairs. I can see a world in which I do, but I don't feel good about it. If we're splashing in Shurima, I mean, there's Grumpy Rock Bears, right? That's still only worth 2. There's Ancient Hourglass, that's still only worth 2, right? And now we're just gonna have to start splashing in landmarks we probably would prefer not to play, like Salt Spire. You know, we're gonna have to start putting in things that we don't want. Rockhopper obviously helps. Rockhopper is good, but there comes a point where there's too many landmarks in our deck and we won't have room or mana to play spells and units. The issue with Malphite is that he requires 12 mana to be spent on landmarks, but then once he levels up, you know, he gives you these unstoppable forces, which are great, but only if you have units. So in order to level him up, you have to play landmarks, but in order to take advantage of his level up, you need to have units. And it's going to be difficult to do both of those things at the same time. And if I had been live reacting to this, if I had made this video yesterday, I probably would have concluded by saying that Malphite's probably not going to be that good. He's really underwhelming. He's not that exciting. Landmark decks are probably not going to be very good. We're probably going to forget about them in a couple weeks, right? I probably would have said that if I had concluded this video here, right? If I had made this video yesterday. However, there were reveals today. There were also reveals today, right? Let's hop on over to today's reveals. Bada boom. Here we go. So, first of all, we're gonna start at the left. Solari Sunhawk, another Targon card. We actually got more Targon cards today. Solari Sunhawk, 2 mana, 2/3, Daybreak, stun the strongest enemy, and that's a skill. That is a Daybreak skill. Stun the strongest enemy. This is a 2 mana, 2/3 Leona. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a 2 mana, 2/3 Leona in Targon. This is a fantastic card. This is an insane card. I think there are plenty of decks in the game right now that are just going to take out one of their 2 drops and slot in 3 of these guys, because man, does Targon like this. And not just Daybreak decks either. This is a Daybreak card that every Targon deck probably wants to run. This is an insanely good card. At least every Targon deck that wants to make it to the late game and slow down their opponent, right? I'm not sure that Nightfall would run something like this, but even they might. Like, stunning the strongest enemy means the strongest blocker has been removed. You know, we got some fearsomes in here. Like, even Nightfall might be like, oh yeah, don't just give me that, you know? I think this is gonna be popping up quite a bit in Targon lists. But we got one more Targon card, and we got one more Targon card revealed, and I imagine this is gonna be the last Targon card, you know, before the set just comes out, but I don't know that. Eye of the Raharok. This is a 5 mana Targon landmark, and it says countdown 1. Stun the 2 weakest enemies, right? So you play this, and at the next round start, it goes away. You stun the 2 weakest enemies. Okay, not bad. Daybreak. If you Daybreak this, summon a copy of me with countdown 2. So essentially, if you Daybreak this, and I mean you will, you're gonna, there's no way you don't Daybreak this, right? If you can't Daybreak this, you're probably just not playing it. So if you Daybreak this, you know, the turn after, you know, the round after you play it, the 2 weakest enemies are stunned. And then the round after that, the 2 weakest enemies are stunned again. And that's pretty good. That's pretty good. It's a good slow down card. This is a card that you play to really slow down your opponent, stop your opponent from going face, from coming at you. And if you have like one big unit, you know, you can stun the littler units and force your opponent to trade their biggest unit with your biggest unit, assuming yours is bigger, right? And I mean, if you're playing something like, I don't know, Malphite, I mean, it probably will be. But that's not what's really important here. What's really important here is the fact that if you Daybreak this, it summons a copy of itself. And since this is worth 5 mana, that means that paying 5 mana for this Eye of the Raharok progresses Malphite by a total of 10. By paying 5 mana, Malphite is now 10 out of 12. And that means that in a dedicated landmark deck, he's leveled up, right? We've already played Blue Sentinel. We've already played a Rockfall Path. We've already played a Rockhopper, right? We've played something. And that means that Malphite is leveled up. So if you're running 3 copies of this in your Malphite deck, Malphite probably will actually be leveled up on round 7 when you play him. Now we're getting somewhere, right? Now we're talking. Now Malphite looks like maybe this could actually be a deck, right? I think this card right here, I think this card, Eye of the Raharok, is taking Malphite from like kind of the dumpster, like tier 3, tier 4, maybe just memes, into actual like potential playability, right? Like this landmark deck could be a tier 2 deck. I think it could be as high as tier 2. I still don't think it's gonna be tier 1 anytime soon unless I'm seriously missing something, but it's not gonna suck. Maybe it might, I mean it might still suck. I honestly don't know. It's gonna take some testing, but I could see a world in which this does not suck, right? I can see a world in which Malphite combined with, I don't know, maybe Talia, maybe Zillion, maybe something, probably will actually be a decent deck. I think with the addition of this Raharok card, I think that was the extra push that Malphite needed, and he might actually be fine. He might actually be fine now. So that's very exciting. Yay! Yay, Malphite! Yay, Big Rock Man! Big Rock Man might actually be fine. Yes. Very exciting. All right, but we do have some extra cards here. We do have a few more cards here. We've got 2 Ionian cards and 2 Shuriman cards. So let's take a look. We got Shadows of the Past. 5 mana Ionian fast speed spell says recall each ally and summon a living shadow in its place. Oh, I don't see it. I do not see it. There still are not very many cards in Ionia that actually benefit from being recalled. Almost none. There are almost no cards in the whole game that actually benefit from being recalled. Perhaps, you know, it's possible that what's her name, Irelia, will have some sort of recall synergy, but we honestly don't know that. So Shadows of the Past, we don't know. I don't see it. I don't see this card doing anything anytime soon. That being said, once we get over to that dancing droplet over there, you know, things might change. In fact, I'm just going to talk about that now. This card right here, dancing droplet, the other Ionian card, 1 mana, 1/1 with both Attune and Elusive. Yes, this is a 1 mana, 1/1 with Attune and Elusive, essentially meaning that this card right here is a 0 mana Daring Poro. This is a 0 mana Daring Poro, a 0 mana 1/1 with Elusive. Let that sink in. Let that sink in. Let that sink in for a minute. That alone is a strong card. A 0 mana 1/1 with Elusive is already pretty spooky, but it does not stop there. No, it does not stop there. This guy says, when I'm recalled, draw 1. That's incredible. This guy, I think this guy right here, Dancing Droplet, might single-handedly bring Ionia back from the brink of death. I think Dancing Droplet all by itself might take Ionia from the worst region in the game to like one of the better ones, like a good region, a region that can actually build decks, try strategies, and like make something happen as a region. And that's incredible. Now you might be looking at this going, what the Game Boy Rob, what are you talking about? It's just a 1 mana 1/1. I mean, sure, it's free. It's a 0 mana 1/1 with Elusive, and I get that that's good. And when it's recalled, it draws 1, then that's nice, I guess. But how does that actually translate to wins? How does that actually translate to being as powerful as you say it is? And let me tell you, the amount of things that you can do with this guy kind of boggle the mind. For instance, the one that I have seen people talking about the most, the combo that I see most talked about, is combining this guy with the card Retreat Return. If you don't know, Retreat Return is a 2 mana fast speed spell, or Retreat, however, is a 2 mana fast speed spell that recalls an ally, and then it puts a return in your hand, and Return is a 1 mana burst speed spell that says put a unit that costs 3 or more, or 3 or less, from your hand onto the battlefield. And essentially, here's what happens. You play Dancing Droplet on round 1, right? You get your spell mana because it has Attune. Because this has Attune, it essentially costs 0. You play Dancing Droplet on round 1. Round 2, you have 3 total mana. You have 2 unit mana and 1 spell mana. You play Retreat for 2. You put Dancing Droplet back in your hand. You draw a card. You play your Return on something from your hand that, well, actually, no, you wait. You play the Dancing Droplet from your hand and get that spell mana back again. Then you use your 1 spell mana on something from your hand that costs 3. Likely a Zed, potentially also a Solitary Monk, which would then recall your Dancing Droplet again and draw you a card again. Either of those things is crazy, right? Either of those 2 things alone is insane, right? Because that's a 2 mana, that's a round 2 Zed with a Dancing Droplet on the field, or a round 2 Solitary Monk with a Dancing Droplet in your hand, and 2 cards drawn. Wow. Wow. And not to mention, if you're running Claws of the Dragon, right? In case you have 1 or more Claws of the Dragon in your hand when you do this, those will be on the battlefield too for free. That's ludicrous. That's insane. That's so much. That is so much value and tempo that you just created using this little guy. Attune is a really good keyword. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but Attune is actually a crazy good keyword. I personally think this is actually a little too strong. I don't see why this has to have elusive. This would be fine if it just didn't have elusive. If this was just a 1 mana 1/1 with Attune, it would still be busted. The fact that it has elusive is just gravy. Now, granted, the elusive doesn't change much. It doesn't really like affect too much of the card. But like comparing this to Dareg Poro just makes me a little sad, you know, like poor Dareg Poro. Why did he have to get so outclassed like this? But yeah, this is a good card. If Irelia and the cards that come with Irelia are as exciting as this card, then Ionia is going to out of nowhere become a really good region. From nothing, right? From nothing to like a good region. But enough about that. Enough about this little flubber looking guy. Let's talk about the Shurima cards that were revealed today as well. First of all, we've got Profiteer, 4 mana 5/3, essentially a Bakai Sandspinner. Which we'll talk about essentially being a Bakai Sandspinner once again. But for now, 4 mana 5/3. Oh look, a Bakai Sandspinner. When I'm summoned, create a Lucky Find in hand. Now, I think this card is not as good as Bakai Sandspinner. Bakai Sandspinner is a pretty decent card. It obviously activates Reputation, which this does, and then it like has some synergy. It gives vulnerable synergy with synergizes with Renekton. It gives -1 attack with synergizes with Nasus and Sivir, and it just Bakai Sandspinner just sort of synergizes with all of Shurima, which is cool. Profiteer gives you a Lucky Find, which I think is supposed to specifically be for Sivir. Obviously she activates Reputation, and that's great and all. I'm not that impressed. The stats are fine. 4 mana 5/3, that's perfectly fine stats. This card is perfectly balanced, I think. I'm just not very hot on the Lucky Find mechanic. After having played around with it since the release of the last set, I have to say that Lucky Finds are just a bit unreliable. In order to get good value out of a Lucky Find, you actually have to be lucky and find what you want. The problem with Lucky Finds is that they give too wide of a variety of bonuses. They give several different keywords, and I don't remember exactly what they all are. It's like Challenger and Overwhelm, and or you know, it's Challenger or Overwhelm or Fearsome or Spell Shield or Quick Attack, I think, something like that. Maybe Tough's in there too, I'm not sure. But in addition to those things, you can also get +1/+1 or +2/+0 or +0/+2. And the fact that you can get stat boosts or keywords really kind of makes Lucky Finds weaker. I think Lucky Find needs to choose one or the other, and I would prefer it be keywords. The way you play Lucky Find is often that you pick the way Lucky Find works is that you have to pick the unit that it's going on before you see what you get, right? And generally that's going to be like a Sivir or something, right? It's going to be something important. It's going to be something that has a couple characteristics that Lucky Find could give you. So for instance, Sivir. Sivir is the most common one. Generally, Lucky Finds find themselves in Sivir decks, right? So if you play Lucky Find targeting Sivir, and Sivir has Spell Shield and Quick Attack, Lucky Find might give you 3 options, and those 3 options will be Quick Attack, Spell Shield, and +1/+1. And since she already has Quick Attack and she already has Spell Shield, I mean, you're gonna take the +1/+1, but you're not gonna feel good about it, right? Like, oh boy, Sivir goes to 6-4 or 7-5, you know, like, I didn't change anything. I wanted Fearsome, you know, I wanted Overwhelm. I wanted my Sivir to give everything Overwhelm, and she didn't do that. I wanted her to give everything Fearsome, but no, she just got +1/+1 and nothing else got anything. And until they really change that, until they change Lucky Find to only give keywords, or, you know, you see what you get before you target the unit, so that you can get, you know, if you play the Lucky Find and you see that, you could be like, oh, well, I may as well give my +1/+1 to my Renekton instead, you know? Until they do something like that, I don't really see it. I don't really see Lucky Finds as a mechanic. And it's not Profiteer's fault, you know. Profiteer's fine. I just don't really like the Lucky Find mechanic, but that's my 2 cents. That's kind of neither here nor there. Profiteer as a card, you know, if you like Lucky Find, then Profiteer is a perfectly valid provider of it. I just don't think that Lucky Finds are that good. So we got one last card, and oh my goodness, this one is a doozy. The last card revealed today was Merciless Hunter. For Shurima, this is a 3-mana 4/3 with Fearsome. And let's stop there. Let's actually stop there and talk about that. Merciless Hunter is a 3-mana 4/3 with Fearsome. That's Callista. That's literally Callista. Merciless Hunter gives you the body of Callista, a 3-mana 4/3 with Fearsome. But she doesn't stop there. She also says, play, grant an enemy vulnerable. So we wanted to talk about, I said a second ago that Profiteer is basically a Bakai Sand Spinner, but with a different ability. This is basically a Bakai Sand Spinner with 1 less attack that does the same ability, and it has Fearsome for 1 less mana. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going down 1 mana, right? We are gaining an entire mana, and all we're losing out on is 1 attack, and I suppose we're giving 1 extra attack to our opponent, where Bakai Sand Spinner would take it away, right? But while those 2 things are going away, we are gaining the Fearsome tag, which Bakai Sand Spinner does not have. Wow, this card is busted. I don't think this card is going to remain as it is. I think this card is going to be nerfed and quickly. I don't think this card is going to last very long as it is right now. I think this card would still be good even if it were a 4/1. If this card was a 4/1, we could compare it to Jaw Hunters, right? Jaw Hunters is a 3-mana 4/1 with Challenger that has a secondary ability, and the secondary ability is putting a sea monster into your hand. This is a 3-mana 4/3 with Fearsome and a secondary ability. This literally does more than Callista does when it hits the board. You play Callista and your opponent plays Merciless Hunter, and the person who played Merciless Hunter is actually ahead on mana and like tempo. That's crazy. That's insane. That champion, you're not supposed to outvalue champions just when you play it. You know, obviously Callista has the power to level up and this doesn't, but even so, champions should generally be stronger than followers. And this is definitely breaking that rule. So I think this either should not have Fearsome or should have like 2 fewer stats, or both, or not have any ability at all. I think what it is right now is absolutely crazy bonkers. When the set comes out, put this in every single Shurima deck. If you're running Shurima, you should run this card, like easy peasy. Every single Shurima deck should be running 3 copies of this. This is absolutely insane, and I suspect it will get nerfed. And yeah, those are all the cards that were revealed today and yesterday. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if I missed anything super important. As a recap, Malphite, not looking great, but not awful either. Thanks to Eye of the Ra Harak, I think Malphite actually has a chance at being a viable deck. Not a huge chance, but a chance at being a viable deck. Ground Slam is pretty good. Stonebreaker is kind of iffy. Solari Sunhawk is nuts. Solari Sunhawk is going to be in every Targon deck. Eye of the Raharok, again, probably only going to see play in Malphite decks, but a very important Malphite card. Maybe some other decks will run it as like game slowdown, but I don't really... we'll see about that. I don't really see it. Shadows of the Past is typical Ionia, right? Typical Ionia garbage. Probably not going to see any play unless Irelia does something that really synergizes with it. It should be noted, Shadows of the Past is a great way to level up Zed. But... even so, that's not really enough. This is a great way to potentially level up Zed, but like... yeah, who cares, right? Profiteer. Again, Lucky Finds aren't really doing it for me, but if you've had a lot of success with Lucky Finds, then Profiteer is probably going to be good for you. Dancing Droplet and Merciless Hunter both seem like they are absolutely going to make their regions good. Like, these cards single-handedly are going to make Shurima and Ionia from like kind of bad regions to like really good regions. I think these two cards are going to carry any deck that they're in just up and away and make them completely transform them. And yeah, those are my thoughts. Those are my 2 cents on those cards. Let me know what you guys think. I will be streaming tomorrow morning at the usual time, 9:00 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Come hang out, and we will be seeing whatever is revealed at that time. And yeah, without further ado, I'm gonna go back to packing or unpacking. I'm gonna go back to unpacking and getting myself ready to stream tomorrow and getting all moved in. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.